Thanks for tuning in to another week of football talk on the OFN Today for this Tuesday, the 18th of December, 2018, as the NFL's final 2 weeks begin on Saturday and the college football bowl season starts week 2 later tonight. Dave Cokin of Covers.com and I will preview this week's bowl games, talk NFL and more as the OFN Today with Dave Cokin starts now. This edition of the OFN Today is brought to you by ourlads.com, rotoexperts.com, and covers.com. Covers.com features live scores, stats, and odds, and is considered the most convenient and entertaining source for sports news and facts with over 45 million visits a year. All right, so here we are, week 2 on the OFN Today. Dave Cokin, Mark Lawrence, and Teddy Savransky, a.k.a. Teddy Covers, will be with me as usual, as we've got 2 more weeks of the regular season in the NFL to talk about, and week 2 of the college football bowl season. So first, Dave Cokin. Dave, how did everything go for you last week, and did you really enjoy that crap of a game last night in Carolina?
No, I didn't enjoy it at all because I had the Saints. My only NFL loser. Boy, what a weird... I can't even call it a bad beat because the Panthers really had 2 great opportunities to put the game away and screwed them up with red zone turnovers. So it's not like I was supposed to be in the game, but that finish was just bizarre. Not going to win them all.
Yeah,
I'll take my 2-1 and be happy. And I went 2-1 in the Bulls, so I'm happy with that too.
Yeah, how as far as the bowls were concerned, what did you have, and did you learn anything from the bowl games? Because we unfortunately got we got a few blowouts early. We did get one game that went down to the wire, which was nice. It was typical for Eastern Michigan to lose another close game, and
I know.
I don't know how. The defensive coordinator, it's got to be firing. You have to be under fire after giving up that 4th down when you tell all your players to back up on 4th and 10 from a quarterback who can't throw the football, and you don't shadow him and allow him to run for 30 yards and set up a field goal. I mean, come on.
That was a great play by Wirtz, for sure. But, yeah, Eastern Michigan just doesn't know how to close the deal. Fortunately, they closed the deal as far as the point spread is concerned.
They did.
At Eastern Michigan, and so they won as far as I'm concerned.
Yes.
I won with Fresno, which actually should have been easier than it was. I thought Fresno just completely dominated the second half of that football game.
Yeah.
And it's not for the turnovers and that weird turnover at the end at the goal line where they cost themselves a touchdown. They'd have won that game by 30. That was a mismatch. In fact, I thought Arizona State looked intimidated, to be honest with you. And I lost. It was a really bad read. If you're going to lose, you may as well lose big. I just had Middle Tennessee State game against App State completely wrong. The one thing we learned, well, we'll find out if it's accurate or not, but it wasn't a very good weekend for Conference USA. North Texas and Middle Tennessee got absolutely obliterated. So we'll see what happens with their remaining representatives. Might be a tough bowl season for the Conference USA.
Well, we'll find out tonight, and I think this is the one that really will let us know because we've got the best team from the Conference USA. See, right now, at least we can look back at the 2 teams that lost, and we could say, okay, well, of course North Texas was going to lose to Utah State. They're not a better team. And when you looked at it even further, their number 1 receiver didn't play. Their quarterback gets hurt. First quarter, didn't play the rest of the game. So they really had no shot at that point. And then when you look at Middle Tennessee, App State gave them all sorts of opportunities to go up really big and early. And apparently, even though you kind of understood that, sure, I'm sure the quarterback and the coach would like to, father and son, like to go out with a win, but the team just didn't respond after the loss at home in the championship game.
That's exactly right. And that turned out to be the misread because I thought, okay, well, they've had 2 weeks to get over it, but they never did get over it. And as it turned out, I was dead wrong on the App State side because I thought with all that had taken place during the week leading up to the game that, boy, this team could be really distracted. And instead, they were completely focused to get Ivy a win in his one game as the head coach. I mean, they carried him off the field. I mean, that game was dead at halftime.
Yeah.
And, in fact, the smart move at halftime was to just bet more Appalachian State because they were not going to let up, and they never did.
All right, so we're going to go in now to the bowl game starting with tonight's game. And, again, that is UAB. So we're going to find out, as I mentioned, because if UAB doesn't have a good performance, considering they're the best team in the conference, then the conference is in a lot of trouble. But UAB, look, it's sort of like Eastern Michigan. Eastern Michigan hadn't won a bowl game in like, whatever, 25 years or 40 years or whatever it was. UAB has never won a bowl game. So we always talk about motivation for bowl games. We know UAB has it. They really responded in a great way against Middle Tennessee State on the road. They proved they were the better team as far as being able to do that, even when their number one quarterback has been out the last few weeks. And I do believe there is a big difference between Erdely and the kid that's in there right now. Now, I haven't heard anything because it's very hard to ever find out anything about what's going on in UAB football and whether Erdely is going to get a chance to play tonight. But look, even without Erdely, I still think UAB is a better team. Look, Sutton Smith's the best player on the field. He's going to be playing football on Sunday starting next year. But we talked about this last week. I forget which show I talked about it. Might have been the college football show I did. But if you look into this, Rod Carey, the head coach at NIU, who's done a pretty decent job, he's never won a bowl game. He's 0-4 in bowl games by a 164-58 margin.
Actually, I think he's 0-5 because I believe he was an interim coach for one of those for the first bowl game. But I don't look too much at that stuff. What I do look at is the matchup, and I think this might be the toughest bowl game there is for me and yet the funny thing is, we're going to get a good idea early on what happens because who's ever winning at the point of attack, the trench war, that's the winner of the game. So you're going to find that out fairly quickly. These are mirror image teams. They're both teams that neither one of them throws the ball well. UAB doesn't. Neither one of their quarterbacks is much. They have to run the football. Northern Illinois has to run the football. Both teams have very good rushing defenses. So I think whichever team is able to establish its ground game, and you should see that pretty quickly, that's the winner. So this, to me, is a live bet more than a pregame bet. Okay,
that's interesting. I mean, look, I get where you're coming from as far as how evenly matched it is. The one advantage for Northern Illinois is they've got Sutton Smith. The one advantage for UAB is they got Spencer Brown. So those are the two advantages. We'll see how it all works out. Again, I'm looking at the motivation for UAB to close out a real good season. And I do think that they're going to be the team that is going to be able to, even if Conference USA has a bad bowl season, I think that they have clearly been, the past 2 years, the best team in this conference. And Clark has done such a good job, and they have some good players there that I think that they're going to prove. And look, NIU, nice job to come back and beat Buffalo. But Buffalo, look, I mean, I'm sorry, but that's Choke City, and they might have the same response Middle Tennessee did in their bowl game. But this is not like anywhere near one of the really good NIU teams. So this isn't anything special. They have nobody on offense you're afraid of at all.
No, they've got a small receivers. They're just a pop gun offense, and they've got to stay in with their defense. But you can say UAB has the more explosive offense, but again, Conference USA, there's almost no defense in the entire league, so it's tough. They will be going against a good defense here.
All right, let's now take a look at tomorrow's game, the Frisco Bowl in Texas. San Diego State, Ohio. Ohio is favored by about 2.5, 3. And another MAC team. And by the way, before the season started, we talked, I think I probably talked about this with Mark Lawrence, how the MAC over the last couple of years just 1-10 in bowl games. and a really terrible record just overall. And then Eastern Michigan goes ahead and loses to start out the bowl season. So just keep that in mind when we're talking about MAC teams and NIU and Ohio. But this is the fourth best rushing defense nationally in San Diego State against the eighth best rushing offense. And that's a big advantage for San Diego State because with Rocky Long, he's a smart guy. He's got a couple of weeks to prepare. Ohio needs to run the football. I think the Aztecs should be able to shut down Ohio enough. San Diego State's also got a couple of weeks more to get their guys healthier, quarterback, running back. And then I mentioned this as well on the show last week. Under Rocky Long, in the last 10 games, as the Aztecs have been straight up dogs, they've won 8 of them.
Well, San Diego State, and you've already hit the key. They have a great rushing defense, and that is really big in this game because Nathan Rourke and Willette are dynamite running the football. But when they can't run the ball and Rourke has to pass, he can make mistakes. He gets a little scatter on him. So I don't think it's a particularly good matchup for Ohio. Also got, let's see if San Diego State comes to play here. I mean, that's the worry. They've looked terrible down the stretch. Losing their last 3 games, they lost to UNLV. They lost to Hawaii. I mean, they played some really bad football at the end of the season.
Yeah.
So I think this is a kind of an important game.
Yeah.
San Diego State. I don't think Rocky Long wants to go into the offseason on another negative note.
No.
So, I think there might be a little bit of an edge on the Aztec side as far as the motivation goes.
Agreed.
And I don't have a problem with the matchup because I really like good rushing defenses, particularly as underdogs in bowl games.
Yeah, those losses at the end of the season were kind of head-scratching, and they didn't even play well. On the scoreboard, they could have played a lot better even against New Mexico. So
They really haven't played well since the middle of the season. Some of that was injury-related, and they are healthier now than they've been. So, but maybe the time off will help. One thing you can note here, by the way, bowl underdogs that are 6-6 and trying to avoid a losing season, they've done pretty well. So that's another check mark on the Aztec side.
All right. Meanwhile, San Diego State's lost 3 straight, 4 out of 5, and just 1-6 against the spread in their last 7. But again, like you said, I agree. I think that's motivation for them to play better. They also lost their bowl game last year. More motivation. Throw in the dog history with Rocky. Throw in the rushing defense and all that with Rocky. Throw in Ohio as a MAC team. And these are all the reasons why I'm taking the Aztecs. So let's go to the game on Wednesday, South Florida and Marshall in Tampa. I'm not sure anybody's going to watch this game. Maybe that's why it's in Tampa. So at least South Florida will have some sort of home field advantage with like 2,000 of their fans showing up. But they've lost 5 straight games, including getting beat up by Central Florida in the finale. Meanwhile, Doc Holliday has never lost a bowl game, and to tell you the truth, that's good enough for me. I'll take Marshall.
Yeah, I'm going to lay out of the game because I made Marshall about 3, and that's what they are, 3, 2.5. So I think the line's right in the game. Very unimpressed with South Florida, but I was all season. I kept on saying when they were unbeaten, this team's totally phony, and I kept betting against them, and that actually worked out pretty well. Because once they lost that first game, they went completely south. I give Holiday an edge over Strong in the coaching department. You've got a substantial edge on defense with Marshall. And the last thing people saw out of Marshall might actually be good here because they just played a real stinkeroo against Virginia Tech. And they weren't ready to play that football game. They're a better team than that. Now, you do have to worry about the Conference USA showing so far.
True.
But I would still look at Marshall here. If I'm going to play this, it'd be the Thundering Herd. Yeah,
and South Florida should at least, even though they've lost 5 straight, can't be feeling good about themselves. Maybe them being more of in a home environment will help them out. But, yeah, I'll go with Doc Holliday and Marshall in this one. Let's now move on to the next one, and that is going to be on. That's going to be on the 21st, and that game is going to be FIU, the first game of those games, the 2 games on Friday are going to be FIU Toledo in the Bahamas Bowl and Western Michigan BYU in the famous Idaho Potato Bowl. That's on the Boise Blue Turf. We'll start with the FIU Toledo game. And FIU is a 6-point dog in this one. First bowl last year under Butch Davis, they lost. So I'm sure Butch would like to get a win here. They're 9-2 against the spread this season. The Owls are. The Panthers are. 3-0 against the spread as dogs, which they are here. Jason Campbell looking for his first bowl win after losing the last two to App State. Remember, they got destroyed last year by App State, 34-0. So they would like a little redemption. But it is a MAC team, so let's keep an eye on that. And I'm also a little bit worried, even though earlier, once I put my report out, I went ahead and took FIU in the points. But I am a little bit concerned with the whole thing that's going on with their running back. That could be a little bit of a distraction.
Look, the weather is also an issue here because the winds, we get a projected high winds.
Really?
Game.
Okay.
Yeah, 20 to 40 mile an hour gusts. And that's not good for Florida International because Toledo loves to run the football. They are the better offensive and better defensive team as far as the rushing stats go. You've got the 34-0 loss last year, which should be motivation. You would think that Toledo's here on a business trip more than a vacation. I mean, they got totally embarrassed last year. My number on the game is a little higher than the line. I think Toledo is the right side in this football game. And again, I know the MAC's been really bad in bowl games, but they're facing a conference here that might also be really bad in bowl games. And I'm just not buying FIU. It could be an entertaining game. Might get some points here, even with the weather conditions. But I prefer the Toledo side here. When teams, just a quick stat, going back to last year, and it's been a winner throughout the years, it was really good last year. Teams with the better rushing offense and rushing defense in bowl games were 12-6 against the spread last year. There were two this past weekend. Georgia Southern won their game. They did not cover, but they did win. And the other was, what was the other one? Oh, it was App State. Well, we know what happened there. So that's holding up so far. And that would favor Toledo here.
All right. Yeah, it is unusual. You would think FIU and Toledo would have the better passing quarterback. But they actually got a MAC quarterback transfer, the kid James Morgan, that's had a pretty nice season for FIU. So they are going to want to throw the football. And Toledo, and the other reason why it's good for them that they can run the football, of course, but I don't think there's any question that they would have preferred to have, or at least you would think, unless Candle wants to change the offense, you would think that they would want to have a passing quarterback because they've got a lot of really good receivers.
Yeah, they do.
And they just don't. They're not able to use them as much because they don't have the type of passing quarterbacks they've had in the past. But anyway, we'll see how it goes. That's the first game on Friday. The second game is a 4:00 game on the Boise Blue Turf, so we'll see how the weather is there. This is one of the very few double-digit spreads. BYU's a 12.5-point spread against another MAC team, and there's no reason for me to believe that BYU is not going to win this football game because Western Michigan, I actually had to do a double take, and of course, this is the reason why I don't like the whole bowl thing. Because, a certain number of teams have got to get tied in from conferences. Because, look, Western Michigan, they're not realistically. They're better teams that haven't made bowls that should have been in bowls over Western Michigan. They are going to start a freshman quarterback who's had to play after the injury to the kid Wasink. He's an interesting young quarterback. He's got some talent, but it is a bowl game.
Prospect.
Yeah, he's a good prospect, the kid Ellaby. We'll see how that goes. But again, it's a MAC team against a BYU team that's covered 4 straight to end the year. They are going to have to rebound after the loss to Utah. That's a big, big loss. By the way, same thing for FIU, because FIU lost that game that ended their season. That close loss, I think it was to Marshall, or else they could have been playing in the championship game. So BYU, we'll see how they rebound from that. But again, the point spread bothers me. I think BYU wins. I'm just bothered by the point spread.
Yeah, it should, because BYU's offense is still lousy.
Yeah,
and I'm not crazy about laying double digits with an offense that that stalls on a regular basis. And I don't know how excited they're going to be about playing Western Michigan, to be honest with you. I mean, it's just, it's Western Michigan. So that's not the type of game I want to lay 12 points in. I don't really want the other side either. They're just not very good.
Another MAC team. Yeah. You can't be taking two MAC teams. What?
They're a middle of the road MAC team that got a hot streak in the middle of the season and has since kind of gone back to their prior form, which coincided with the quarterback getting hurt.
Yep.
But in these minor bowl games, you don't want to be. Look, I know the favorites did really well this past weekend, and they might continue to do well. But you generally don't want to be laying a lot of points with teams that might not care about the game. And I just don't know that BYU is really excited about this. I'm not seeing anything that indicates they are. I'm not seeing where, boy, it's a great opportunity to go out there and close the season on a big note. Yeah, they're playing Western Michigan. I think if BYU was playing, I don't know, Duke or somebody like that, an opponent that is going to get their interest more, I'd rather have them in a situation like that than as a big favorite against a team they know they kind of know they're going to beat. Overconfidence can be a real killer in these games.
Yeah, and keep in mind, this is a 6-6 BYU team. So this is a team that really the best team. I think they had nice wins over teams that really weren't anywhere near as good as their name would suggest. Arizona, Wisconsin. And then they really didn't beat anybody else. They came close a few times.
Northern Illinois.
They lost to a MAC team at home and scored 6 points in Northern Illinois. And let's give credit to Western.
And by the way, got completely outplayed in the game. I mean, that wasn't. I watched.
Yeah, they had 200. Yeah, they only had 300 yards of total offense. But
listen, I had the wrong side of the game. I had BYU minus the points. I watched the game and it's like, boy, am I on the wrong side in this one? Because Northern Illinois was beating them in the trenches, and BYU was terrible in that football game. So they are capable of some really bad games. I'm not enamored with their coach either.
Yeah, he's kind of. You get the feeling that maybe they just keep him around until somebody else wets their whistle. Somebody that they believe. Who I think would be good for BYU would be Mike Leach. It's his alma mater. And I know we keep hearing that Leach is going to leave Washington State and go somewhere. And I know BYU is not like whatever a Big 12 school, but he's not getting a huge job anyway. If he's going to get a job, why not just? I mean, BYU used to be a good program. BYU could still be a good program.
And by the way, I know it hasn't gone that way recently, but they were always the program that had great quarterbacks.
Yes.
And
there you go. Get Mike Leach there, and he'll bring him back.
Yeah, I mean, he'd be a great fit there.
He would. I mean, that would be a nice place that he could retire at, go back home to BYU. But again, Sataki, the thing is he there's been so inconsistent under him, whether it's by season or even by games. I mean, they just have they can't just have any long-term success. But I think the major problem is he's had absolutely no talent at the quarterback position since he's been coaching there, and really hasn't had much talent anywhere else. He hasn't had a stud running back. I mean, he did have Williams there for one season, I think, which was his first year. And then that's it. He hasn't had any stud receivers. He hasn't had a stud quarterback. No. So, and that's it's recruiting too.
BYU fans have to be cringing. It's the third best program in the state. Utah's a better program.
That's right. Now Utah State's beating them.
Utah State's a better program.
Yep.
I think BYU needs to make a change.
Yeah.
And you wonder if they'll try and maybe go out there and recruit somebody like Leach. Why not?
They should. It would be good for college football fans. I think we'd all like it. Okay, so now let's talk quickly on the NFL. And last week I asked you to give me a teaser of the week. And you gave me a teaser, and you got the job done with Baltimore and Atlanta. So, again, talk about your teaser this week and, once again, the parameters of what makes up your two-team teasers and why you like to do them like the ones last week.
Yeah, I actually don't have a fit this week because there's only one team that's in that 7.5, 8.5 favorite range. and there's none on the underdog side where you want the none that I like particularly. Well, actually, there is one.
How many points is it again? 7 or 6? 6, right? Okay.
On the favorite,
on the
you
two
want
teamers.
7.5, 8, or 8.5.
But you're giving up 6, right, on each game?
Yeah, 6-point teasers.
Okay.
And on the dog side, ideally, you want 1.5, 2, or 2.5. So I'll go that route here with the Dallas Cowboys, teasing them down through the 7 and through the 3. And I'm going to go with the Seattle Seahawks, teasing them up through the 7, through the 3, and the 7 to plus 8.5.
All right, so you're going to go Seattle 8.5, and what's Dallas again?
Dallas would be minus 1.5 on the teaser.
Okay, yeah, that's one you definitely play because Tampa Bay is pretty bad. So yeah, so there you go, Dallas. That's a good one, and then the second one that you basically and look, the Seattle game, I got no problem with that. Kansas City, it's sort of like Kansas City and the Rams have not been the same since they played each other. I know Hunt is a factor for the Chiefs, and you know Cooper
They can't
Kupp.
stop anybody. They just can't stop anybody.
Yeah, and then of course
it happened again this past week. They just play no defense. It's going to, how weird is this? If the Chiefs lose this weekend,
yeah,
which is definitely a possibility,
Uh-huh.
they might end up as the number 5 seed in the NFC.
That is crazy. I know. That is crazy. But that could happen. And look, I think that is going to be a good football game. I mean, we've seen Mahomes and that offense, especially lately. We can see them turnovers and such in that stadium. It'll be a madhouse. And we know how – look, Seattle still is in pretty good shape, even if they lose. It's going to take quite a bit because we know they're going to beat Arizona next week. So they're in a good spot.
But what makes it worse for Kansas City is the fact that Seattle, they had their mail-it-in game this past Sunday. They weren't good at San Francisco. They were flat to begin with, and they played a lousy game. And they're coming to play in this one. I think they were looking ahead to this game, coming off a big win against the Vikings, short week, going into San Francisco, which doesn't excite anybody. And I think they're looking ahead to this national TV standalone game. You got to get a fired-up Seahawks team, and that crowd's going to be nuts up there.
Yeah. Yeah, they showed that stat. Now, I don't know, was that a Monday night stat with whether it's Russell Wilson or Seattle, or was that a prime time stat? They showed last time that Seattle has been, Seattle / or Russell Wilson has been really good. I know it was Monday nights. I just don't know if it was prime time and Monday nights. But I would talk to Teddy about the game and the odds last week, about how low they were, and he was surprised too. And I said the only thing, this is one of those things where I should have asked Mark Lawrence about because he's got all these things covered, and that is because I proposed, well, Seattle is coming off a Monday night game at home. They got to go on the road, and they got to take on a team that they just destroyed a couple of weeks ago. So do you think there's a little bit of something there that could be a bad sign for Seattle over, some sort of historical trend in that situation? Now, I don't know. I never figured that out. I'll talk to Mark about it tomorrow. But it sure looked like it on the field. Like you said, they just didn't. They just could not keep up the emotion from the Monday night home game. Go on a road against a team that you just beat a week ago by like 30. So
and the thing is, they probably. I mean, look, they didn't pop champagne corks after the Vikings game, but they knew as soon as they won that game, well, we're in the playoffs.
Pretty much, yeah.
And it was just a really dead spot. And give it to Shanahan. When you consider all the injuries they've had, I mean, that team plays hard. San Francisco is going to be a team to look out for next year when they get Garoppolo back and the running back. I mean, that team, they had the worst August imaginable with injuries leading up to the season. Then Garoppolo gets hurt. This season gets destroyed before it even gets started.
Yeah.
They're going to be good next year. You watch that 49er team. They're going to be a team on the rise next season.
No, yeah, and it's probably one of those things where you see a lot where like the public will get behind a team a year too early. And again, they had the injuries. But I don't care about that. It's just the fact is, sometimes you see that, and then they'll be gun shy this season. You watch next season. A lot of those same people will be gun shy about it. I don't trust Garoppolo staying healthy. I don't trust this. I don't trust that. And then that's when San Francisco will come out and have the season that everybody thought they were going to have this season. So,
yeah, and the thing is, I think Shanahan's done a really good job.
He has, sure. Good coach, yeah. He was a good hire. So, no question. Absolutely. They got the right coach. They got some of their young players performing well. Another draft, they're going to get the first pick. That's going to be very interesting because of the fact that, well, again, unless they're able to pull off an upset or two, the fact is they're going to get themselves look, they could probably what they should do is unless they want to go and look, you would likely think if they keep the pick, they'll go after Nick Bosa. That's a great fit for their defense. But they'll be tempted. There'll be some teams that might want to move up, and they're the type of team that could still use a whole bunch of picks and move down. So,
although Nick Bosa looks like a game changer,
he does. I would tend to believe that if they get the first pick, they'll stick with Bosa.
I think whoever gets the first pick should just take Nick Bosa, and not even consider trading it.
And I think Oakland will be the same way because I don't think Oakland. I think at this point now, I'm starting to believe that Gruden's going to hold on to Carr as his number one guy, instead of going for a quarterback.
Well, you know what? This is a year. To me, there's no quarterback that's worth the number one overall pick.
No,
I don't know, and I don't even know if Herbert's coming out.
Nope, he hasn't made that call. Neither has Haskins. Neither of them have made calls yet about coming out. So.
Yep. So what are you going to take Drew Lock with the number one?
No, that ain't happening. No.
Not for me.
Nope. All right, sounds good, Dave. So we'll talk again next week. In the meantime, the website is over at smokingcokin.com. Your email is cokin@cox.net. And we can reach you on Twitter at Dave Cokin. So, Dave, appreciate it. Enjoy the football this week, and we'll talk especially starting tonight. We got all these bowl games now. We got what is there, a bowl game every day now for the next 2 weeks?
Pretty much. Lots of football.
All right, well, let's hope they're good. Thanks, Dave. We'll talk to you next week.
See you, Greg.
All right, that's Dave Cokin, covers.com. And again, Dave will be with us as he has been all season long on Tuesday, as we'll have another week's worth of bowl games to recap and and more to preview on next week's show. Meanwhile, there's going to be some more talk here on the OFN Today tomorrow with Mark Lawrence and Thursday with Teddy Savransky. Also, of course, of Covers.com. Scott Engel will be with me on Thursday to talk fantasy football. It's the final fantasy football segment of the year with Championship Week this week. So we'll talk about all the key players in case you might need to pick someone up and any other kind of playoff angles that are necessary as you get into Championship Week for your championship team. So that's going to be on Thursday's show here on the OFN Today. And we'll have some other things to talk about as well. I've got a few things I'd like to get off my chest. That'll be on the next couple of shows, though, right here on the OFN Today. By the way, the first draft show with Dan Shanka, Our Lad's Guide to the 2019 NFL Draft, is available on demand, so you can check that out on the ourladsfootball.com website. We had our Jet show yesterday, so not much to talk about there, to be honest with you. It's kind of why I took almost like a month off for the Jet shows, because when you know it's about the future and that's all you're going to do is talk about free agency and rookies and draft picks and depth chart, it's not the same. I mean, that gets old real quick. But we're going to have a very good show in 2 weeks, though, on Black Monday as a Jet fan. So that's going to be a big day in Jetsville on Jets FM. All right. We'll see you again next Tuesday for Dave Cokin. But don't forget, tomorrow it's Mark Lawrence right here on the OFN Today. For Dave Cokin, I'm Greg DePalma, Alpha Mike Foxtrot.